Hello everyone, my name is Eric, and I'm here with Oakland Tobacconists to tell you a few truths about Cuban tobacco maybe you should know about before going out on a safari to find those cigars that you've never tried. You are watching Oakland Tobacconists. If you're interested in any of the boutique blends or any of the cigars I'm mentioning now, please check us out on the OGT Cigar Society social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Join the community, learn about the cigars, and have a great time with other cigar smokers just like yourself. Please don't forget to like, to comment, and subscribe, and make certain you hit the bell so that you're alerted every time a new video comes out. We've all heard the lore and the mystique surrounding Cuban cigars. And I want to first set the record straight and say I am not here to knock Cuban cigars. I think there are some fantastic Cuban cigars out there. But I do think so much mystique and like unknown things about Cuban cigars, like Cuban tobacco, surrounds it, that it sort of seems like that unattainable unicorn that you just absolutely have to try. Because we've all heard it before, Cuban cigars are supposed to be the best on the market. Now, while they have their place, and there is so much about Cuban tobacco, Cuban heritage, and Cuban cigars that are fantastic, I will definitely say there are some facts that maybe the average cigar smoker does not know about that. And so I want to put a small focus on a few of those. We're not going to cover the entire thing, it would take incredibly too long. But there are a few things I would definitely point out and why New World cigars, whether they're coming out of Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Honduras, Puerto Rico, why they are making such a huge splash in the industry and why some of them are considered the best. Now, first off, I will definitely say I think a lot comes down to the talent and the tradition of cigar making and the heritage and how that takes form within the art of cigar making. Whether it is someone like AJ Fernandez or the Cuevas family who have a Cuban heritage that have grown up in this industry and have seen that transition happen from Cuban cigars to New World cigars. In fact, AJ Fernandez has a cigar brand called New World that is an ode to basically just that. Cigar making in Nicaragua or in the Dominican Republic. Either way, amazing places to have cigars made. But when that tradition is carried over to those countries, when those people have moved and those families have moved, those traditions continued on. So the original Cuban crafting and art of cigar making are now in these New World tobacco producing places. A big thing I did not know when it comes to Cuban tobacco is because of the soil and the climate, and also a lot has to do with the fact that the soil sometimes is not getting turned or getting rested, you end up with Cuban tobacco that has typically a thinner leaf. It has a bit thinner than, let's say, Connecticut broadleaf, most Ligero tobacco, like Habano Ligero, such like that. So when you take that thinner leaf, and you take a bunchero, who is someone who's bunching up those leaves to put in a binder, to put into a press, to later be wrapped with a wrapper leaf. Cuban tobacco is much more thin, so you compress more into it. And a lot of times, too, is you have that Parejo traditional size, you're compressing it together, and when you are doing so, some of the tobacco is wet or pushed out as quick as it can from being grown and then put into production. So I know a lot of people talk about ammonia amongst Cuban tobacco, but because of that thin leaf and because of the amount that you're fitting in there, it is closing off and condensing those airways even more so than would normally. And that's why I think a lot of times when we are having a Cuban cigar, if you've ever tried one, there is a high possibility of having a tight draw or it's not burning right because you're not allowing those tobaccos to age properly. And at the same time, they're compressed so very tight, it really plugs up that airway. And I bring that up because we take a company like Stolen Throne Cigars. Huge fan of Stolen Throne. They do amazing blends here. In fact, they even blended our 5th year anniversary cigar, which is dropping very soon, so keep your eyes peeled. Stolen Throne is an amazing company. They create amazing cigars, and they only use aged tobacco, hence construction, flavor on point. Or you take something like our Stallone Midnight Ride. Now, that cigar, once in a while, it's a handmade product, you might end up with one that's a bit tighter on the draw, but consistently tends to burn correctly, open draw every time, and then smoke output. That is because that particular blend, in contrast to something like a Cuban blend, has several Ligero leaves within the filler, and those Ligeros are Nicaraguan grown Ligero, thicker leaf, so you can't compress them as tight as those thinner leaves, and at the same time, it's box pressed, a little underfilled compared to a Parejo round. It creates this awesome, beautiful draw to it. These are some of like the behind-the-scene crafting of when it comes to cigar making. We'll end up with, why is that so tight, or why is that not burning correctly? There is a science behind it. There is a reason behind it. There's a myriad of other reasons of why the prices of Cuban cigars are so much. Less of that has to do with the tobacco itself and more about the import taxes and the export taxes and the taxes on top of the taxes when it comes to Cuban cigars. So that's a big element, but there's a whole host of it. So next time you hear that statement, Cuban cigars are the best in the world, if it's your flavor profile, if it's just it hits your palate correctly, there's nothing wrong in thinking that at all. But if you haven't tried a Cuban, do bear those things in mind, that they're going to probably play a factor when you light that Cuban cigar up. Drop it down in the comments. What do you think of Cuban cigars? Are they the best in the world, or are there others that might be able to beat it, such as Nicaragua, Dominican, Puerto Rico, and the list goes on. As always, thank you for watching. Certainly hope you learned something from this video. Check out the community on social media, and we will see you next time on Oakland Tobacconist.